name is Brendan, and over the past year, the Delight Cafe team and I have traveled across the U.S. researching this rapidly growing industry of CBD products. What we have found throughout the industry were products that were inconsistent in dosage and used ingredients that weren't even lab tested. Products with chalky textures, bitter aftertaste, and worst of all, confusion among the CBD consumers. That's why we created Delight Cafe. A 15 milligram, lab tested, all natural, water soluble hemp CBD powder pack. It's odorless, colorless, and tasteless. Add it to your favorite drink of choice, wherever, whenever, on the go. Quickly find your calm, your balance, and your delight when you need it most.
Good morning. Good morning. Java Delight will uplift you. Stay tuned. The show is about to begin. Grab your coffee. Stay tuned. This show is about to begin.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing today, Mr. Gavin?
It's been a weird week, man. It has been a weird week.
Yeah,
I don't know who I pissed off or what happened, but I've had every date, every plan, every lunch. Like, I've had everything canceled this week so far. As soon as I wake up, I go through and I check what all my plans are. And then I get a bunch of texts, hey, I'm sick. Everybody is getting sick right now. But it's not COVID either. It's strep. It's the flu. I have a friend, he got pneumonia. Who the hell gets pneumonia? He's okay. Well, a lot of people getting sick right now.
It's interesting. Now that the vaccine is out, now everybody's getting the flu and the cold. And pneumonia, all that stuff that disappeared last year is all reappearing because, I don't know, maybe because it really existed last year, but it was counted as something else. I think that, and I was just thinking about this as well. I was thinking, what we're experiencing right now, and this could be worse than COVID itself, is the COVID hangover. It's just like, when you're drunk and you're having a good time the night before, you're feeling fine. But then when you wake up in the morning and you got that hangover,
you mean the after effects and everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe. And I think that this is what we're experiencing for a number of reasons. One, just and really just kind of equating it to a hangover. When you go to sleep at night after drinking too much, but maybe not so drunk that you were sick.
Yeah.
But you wake up in the morning, your head's killing you, your stomach's bothering you, all this kind of stuff. But when you went to sleep last night, you thought you were going to wake up and today was going to be just like yesterday. Well, it's the same thing that a lot of people believe about COVID, that, it's going to go back to the way it was. Well, no, it isn't. And in fact, you don't even realize the changes that have taken place in you, in people around you. A lot of this stuff now that we're seeing with people freaking out on planes and that kind of stuff, this is really, in my opinion, kind of part of that concept of a COVID hangover.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be, maybe. I don't know. Like, it's been weird. That happened. So all my plans have been canceled this week so far due to people being sick for different reasons. I think you could also play in a part, too, that everybody has been staying inside and washing their hands, like constantly, like maybe not washing their hands, but like staying inside, staying away from any sort of germs, so their immune systems are like now getting shocked coming back into, because all at once it seems the bars are filling back up. We were at the casinos, absolutely nobody was wearing a mask except for maybe some of the employees. But I think it might be an immune system shock to being thrown back into the world the way it is. But so I had that, and then I woke up this morning. I don't know what the hell happened, but my entertainment center, that is my turtle tank, there is a shelf above it that has vines hanging down. Somehow that fell last night, but not like onto the ground. It fell straight down right on top of my turtle tank. Thankfully, my the light bulbs didn't shatter, but they did break. So I might have to get a new heat lamp for the tank, unfortunately. But I just thought that was really bizarre, because that's been up there for a while, like probably like 6 months now that's all been up there. And I never touched the setup. You know, I clean the tank once in a while. I feed the turtles, and that's it. And then on top of that, last night I had the worst sleep paralysis that I've ever experienced in my life out of nowhere. I woke up at probably like 3 or 4 in the morning.
Wow.
And it physically felt like at first I just couldn't move. And then it felt like someone or something physically got on top of me and just started to strangle me. Like I physically felt like I was being choked.
And maybe you got some spirits visiting you.
Yeah, I got so my stepsister was watching the house while I was at we were in Vegas. I'm gonna call her up and ask her what the hell she was doing in this house, because somebody's clearly pissed. She clearly made somebody or something angry in here, and I'm not dealing with it. I ain't having it, all right? Like, it's not like Ghostbusters. It's not nearly that much fun. It was frustrating. Eventually,
it's weird. A lot of the things that are going on. Sorry, even my camera's off, but that's just because maybe I'm crooked when I'm sitting here. But you know, there's a lot of things that are happening, are going to be happening, that are kind of weird. That, you know, the energy out there is definitely weird. People are having a hard time with their own energy, and they're also having a hard time being around other people's energy, because the energy that people have today is different than the energy that people had when they went in before COVID.
Yeah.
And that whole thing, like you're saying, is trying to figure itself out, and the effects of that on just the, you know, I am very much into energy, much more than I ever was in my old science day life.
Yeah.
But there's just a ton of stuff that's happening that I think is going to continue to happen as we really start to wake up from the COVID coma that the world has been in for the past 18 months. And that our, you know, part of the world is going back there. You know, you've got Australia, you've got the UK, you've got Russia, China, and now they're talking even about the US possibly going back into lockdown back in, you know, in the September, October.
Do you feel like some people wanted to go back?
I guarantee there's some people that wanted to go back, and I'm
not gonna lie, that first week, like the first couple weeks where everything was like shut down. Yeah, it was scary, but it was also really quiet. It was really nice, you know, driving around with nobody on the street.
Well, and you also need to, you know, look at who benefits from that.
Yeah.
From a control and from a financial perspective. And
everyone and their mother works at Amazon now, it seems. That's like the new default job.
And big pharma and those places, you know, and the politicians love it too, because they had far more influence over people, and they've kind of created that to where people continue to follow it. But, you know, there's also the people that are waking up and saying, hey, wait a second, this world that we thought we voted in is different than what we're getting. You know, I didn't vote one way or the other because I thought both candidates were unworthy of my vote.
Now, do you think it's? I got a question about that. Do you think that it is? It's worse or better to vote for a third party than to not vote at all?
I think that when you have two terrible candidates, to feel that you have to make the choice of the lesser of the two evils is a very bad situation to be in. And in my position and my mind, I would rather not vote at all for those. I wish there were a third party that was in our country, that we would have a third option available to us. But again, neither one of the parties want that to happen, because then they lose control. They'd rather have the other party win, but still maintain two parties than allow another party to come in. Yeah. So it's, this is the second time in my life that I haven't voted. The other one was the previous election. I couldn't vote for Hillary or Trump. Yeah,
it seems like these past two have been majority controversial. I wonder how much of that, though, is the candidates themselves and how much of that is just social media. So you got to think, like, before then, how many people now, everything is online, everything's on Twitter, whether it's real or fake. You have everybody constantly telling you information on why one candidate is amazing, the other one sucks. We didn't really have that beforehand. Like when George W. Bush was running, I bet if there was Twitter around, the outcome could have been extremely different.
Well, there's no doubt about it. I think that the humanity is trying to still get a grasp on the impact of social media and immediate news coming in from, not that I'm saying that big mass media is biased hugely. But now we've got, the source of an article, the source of an event that's on the news can often be the guy who's just got his cell phone out at the time that something's happening. And, we've talked about this in, One Square at a Time and on the show before, but, the perspective of an event depends on the individual, depends on how they interpret it or the angle at which they're taking the picture.
Well, I think that's extremely relevant with social media itself, because everybody's social media is related to them and themselves. It's all marketed that way. So you click on everything, you want to share, you want to subscribe, you want to like what you're seeing, because it's all like-minded individuals. Unless you go out looking for, people in some kind of forum or a post where you're going to find controversy. Like if you just scroll down your own Facebook page, 90% of the stuff that you see is going to be things you agree with, or at least have an interest in.
Well, yeah, that's the AI that they talk about, artificial intelligence. That's the algorithms that they're writing. And at the same time, just, from a very simple perspective, if I have my camera pointing this direction at an event, or if I'm over here and I'm pointing my camera like this, the camera picks up something a little bit different. It's kind of like, watching instant replay in the NFL. Yeah, there's 5 cameras and each camera picks up something a little bit different. And that difference can mean that, the play actually stands or it gets overruled, because the camera angle shows the football either touching the ground or that there's actually a hand under the football. And that's the kind of thing that we're, that plays a big role in what we're experiencing today. And we experienced before, I think, also in mass media, but you didn't have as many cameras out there, as many perspectives.
Yeah.
So you thought what the New York Times or what NBC or what CBS or even what PBS is putting out there is the truth, is unbiased, is looking at both sides of it. And that's never been the case, but we didn't have the opportunity to really judge that because there weren't other cameras out there to be able to show it.
But not only that, but you could also look away from it. When everything was either on the TV or magazines or newspapers, you had the option to not watch the TV. You weren't always watching the TV because it was in your living room, or if you had money at the time, it was in your bedroom. You could not buy the newspaper. You not look at the magazines. I'm always on my phone. I don't watch the news, but I always know what's going on because if I'm on Facebook, if I'm on social media, I'm seeing people post about it or I'm seeing memes about it. Kobe, when Kobe died, I found out by a meme that was put out there.
Yeah.
Not even like 2 hours after it happened. I was scrolling through and I saw a meme about his death and I was like, oh, that's a really weird thing to post. And then I scrolled down one more post and it was somebody else that like I went to high school with saying R.I.P. Kobe, blah, blah. Like I was like, holy shit, that's insane. I found out through this twisted dark joke before I found out the actual fact of what had happened.
Yeah, I think I was the same way. I saw that on Facebook or something. I was like, is this some kind of a weird joke or something? And then I did another search, a Google search on Kobe. And then I started seeing these articles that were popping up. And I was like, okay, validated. And, but yeah, the first introduction to that was like something that, and for me, I'm just kind of the kind of person that's like, okay, I read this, sounds weird. I need to get some, validation points before I'm going to take it to heart. But that's not the way that a lot of people work. If they see it, they believe it, and then it becomes very difficult to change their mind oftentimes.
Keep going. I'm going to look this guy up really quick.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Did want to let everybody know that we may not have a guest coming up on the second half of the show. It appears there may be a cross up in who we thought was going to be scheduled and posted out there, and the actual guest that was out there responded back saying he thought he was supposed to be on next week's show. So next Wednesday's show. So we may or may not have a guest in the second part of the show. So we're going to kind of run this morning the way that we normally do for the first hour. And if we don't have a guest, it'll kind of be up to everybody out there in our viewing audience. If you want to interact and start asking questions and doing some things, then we'll continue to run with the show and interact with you more than we even do normally. Kind of like I did one, I don't think it was the earlier this week or something, but and just start working with the topics and questions and comments that you have. So anyhow, just wanted to bring that up so everybody's aware of it. Good morning, Bob. I hope you're feeling better. I know I saw out there that you were having trouble sleeping, insomnia, and also it sounded like you were having some pain in your legs and you were trying to shake that off. So hopefully you're feeling better this morning. Good morning, Lena from Sweden. I really appreciate you tuning in every time you do. It's absolutely amazing to be able to connect with family and friends around the world through a media that I never ever thought that I would be doing anything like this on a daily basis for sure, or a live basis even. So thank you for being there, Brian. Good morning. Hopefully you're on the road and you're having fun driving your truck again, and not only having fun but making money. So that's fantastic. What else we got? Jessica.
I got a video that I like to share really quick to show like. Just don't. Sure. This is part of the reason why I'm always skeptical. Anytime that I hear something on the internet or on the news, I always tend to be skeptical of it. I always say, all right, well, what happened before that? What's the backstory on it? Sure. Sometimes I don't care enough, so I'll just take it out as like, oh, okay, that's possibly a fact. That's cool. But a lot of the times I don't, and this is part of the reason why. So there is a famous YouTuber who he's Australian. He tricked the who is this? Would I share the audio? I don't believe I did. He tricked an American news station. I believe he'll say which one. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. But he tricked them into thinking that he is a famous painter from Australia.
Okay.
And he got put on national TV by doing it. So I won't show the whole video, but...
My name's Clive Palmer, And you're a photographer?
Yes, I've worked with publications like Vogue Australia.
Oh my gosh, you're perfect.
Hi, if you're watching this video, you would know that my name is not Clive Palmer, and Clive Palmer is not a famous photographer. He's a big fat man who used to be a politician in Australia. My name is Lewis Spears. I'm a stand-up comedian, and I love getting fake stories on the news. In fact, I've done this so many times in my home country, Australia, that the television program Media Watch said this about me.
Spears is a comedian and serial pest.
So, when you've tricked most of the media outlets at home into running fake stories about you, where do you go next? The answer is pretty obvious: the United States of America. In this video, I will show you how I tricked American news network ABC Nightline into doing a fake story on a fake photographer and broadcasting that fake story nationwide. So, enjoy the ride, don't believe everything you hear on the news, and hopefully I'll catch you at a show sometime.
So not only did he tricked them into saying that he's a famous photographer, which all he did, he had like two other people with him, two of his buddies, as the camera crew. What they originally were doing were there's the pink wall in LA. They were going up to that, just tricking civilians and saying he was a photographer, trying to get them to do silly things, take pictures of like weird foods and like holding like their shoes like they're drinking out, but just making them look dumb. And the news just happened to be there. And so he went over and started talking to them, talked to the manager and everything, and got an exclusive scoop with them. He ends up getting this woman to, this very, very respected woman, to take a bite out of an onion as well.
Just incredible. So there's some amazing journalism in America. I'm very impressed.
Surely someone at ABC Nightline would at the very least Google the name Clive Palmer, realize that I'm lying to them, and not actually air my interview. Clearly, like the rest of us, I put far too much trust in journalists doing their research, because on the 20th of September, ABC Nightline aired my interview nationwide.
We followed him to Melrose, the epicenter of Instagram.
We flew 24 hours. I have something here. I've got an onion. So if you were to treat that as if it was an apple, and you were about to take a bite out of it, but like a dramatic pose.
Oh, dramatic.
Yeah.
Like almost
So like this, and like you're about to take a bite. That's wonderful.
Like that?
Yeah, and then I would take that just like this, and I think that.
Will you take a photo for me?
Yes, I will. I can take a photo for you for sure.
This is a pretty... But can I get this professional journalist to actually sink her teeth into an onion she got from a stranger's pocket?
Should I bite it?
Yeah.
Huh, didn't even have to ask. I guess she was hungry.
That's part of the reason why I always don't trust everything that I see, especially on the news, let alone the internet in general. Because if you walk up to somebody with enough confidence,
Well, yeah, I mean, and there's this mindset in mass media as well as in social media that I want to be the first one to get this thing out on the news, and they don't do any validation, they don't do any research, they just get shit out there, and then if they have to retract what they say, if they do, it's a 2-second blurb at the end of a newscast. Or if it's in the newspaper, they put it on the first page as the lead article, but they put the retraction on page 26 in the bottom corner of the, underneath, some advertisement or something.
Yeah.
And that is exactly why so many people are befuddled or, are being led by what they see or what they read. And then there's also those that are very skeptical about what is said and what they read. And I've always been more, I think, on the skeptical side and, validate. Who was it? I can't remember if it was Nixon or Kissinger or something like that. It was always trust but validate.
Yeah.
And even as a leader in today's world, that's kind of what we need to do is we do need to trust our people, but also validate, make sure that things are, before you follow too far down the path, make sure that the path doesn't come to a dead end. Make sure the path isn't going in the wrong direction. Make sure you're not going over the waterfall and not just going down a lazy stream. Yeah. Those types of things.
No, absolutely. And I think that you should understand as well, too. You know, even when you're passionate about something, you should understand why or when somebody would be skeptical about it. I remember there was a time where when a lot of the riots were happening throughout the country for the BML movements, there was an article that a friend of mine had posted about a man who was at one of the riots and was shooting a bow and arrow into the crowd. And I was skeptical about it. I said, oh, really? That's what they chose. That was their weapon of choice. That's why I was skeptical about it. I thought out of everything they could have used, a bow and arrow seemed kind of strange to me.
Right.
And she was furious that I would question it at all. And I said, hey, you know, I believe that somebody would go and attack these people protesting what had happened and stuff like that. You know, I completely believe that they would use a weapon. I just thought that a bow and arrow was a strange weapon of choice. And, you know, I looked into it and I found out, I was like, it took me maybe 3 minutes. I looked into it myself, and I found I was like, oh, wow, here's the news article from several different news stations. This actually is what happened. That's crazy. That guy's a dick. Like, what a horrible human being. Why would you do that? And I told her that, and she was still mad at me, though. She's like, I can't believe that you would question it at all. But I think that's just as dangerous, in all honesty. I think it's even more dangerous to just agree and just understand everything, because it plays into what you believe into.
That's absolutely true. You know, and it really does have a lot to do with people's natural energies and tendencies. I'm a detail person, so I always go toward the validation side. My girlfriend is more of a people-oriented person. So the way she gathers her information, the way she validates her thoughts is by really normally talking to people, interacting with people, engaging with people. I tend to do it myself, you know, and doing the research. But she is normally the kind of person that's like, just give me the executive summary of this, and then let me go do whatever I need to do, like in business. Tell me what you want, and then let me go and do it. Don't give me all the details. And there's been a number of times that I've learned from her by doing that. You know, don't get stuck in paralysis of analysis. But at the same time, I've had to show her, you know, that what she thought she heard from a trusted source in her network was actually not a valid hypothesis or a valid premise or a valid foundation. And then
how do you go about when you're proven wrong in something? When you strongly believe something and then you find a new source that tells you, hey, these are the actual facts. How do you go about that? How do you process it, accept it, retract? What's your deal?
Well, you know, there's times that those things happen in different parts of our lives. Some of it can be, you know, kind of like these news things or things that are out there that you can immediately start going out and doing some research. And I tend to do that. On the other hand, you could be in the middle of a conversation, or even more so in the middle of a heated debate. And you're like about to say something, and what that other person said comes to your mind, and you're like, oh, wait a second. Maybe there's some truth to that. Yeah. I need to back off of what I was about to say and go and do some more research or validate what's going on. So for me, it's not that I am going to change my mind right away. At the same time, I do try to make it comfortable for me to say, wait a second, let me do some more checking before I say things one way or another.
Yeah.
It's kind of, again, you know, if you're going down a road that you've never seen and it comes to it, but you don't know there's a dead end there, putting the pedal to the metal to get through it isn't going to do you any good. Yeah. Eventually you're going to hit that dead end and then you're stuck. If you would have stopped ahead of time and turned around, you could have, you know, gotten to where you're going faster. And believe me, I've done that literally on the road, where my shortcut ends up being an hour longer than than if I'd have stuck with the normal path. Yeah. So that I do get stuck in that kind of a situation as well. So it's not like my thought process is foolproof by any means. And that's why it's so cool to be around people that have different energies than you do, because if you're open to that, then you're going to start to gather information that you might not have come up with yourself, because that's just not the way that you viewed life. That's just not the way that your natural energy flows. I think, yeah, exactly what Jessica is saying here. Do your own research. This week I was given a drug by a very respected cardiologist and was told there are no side effects. Guess who had a reaction? Even the educated don't know everything.
Absolutely.
This is interesting because I was talking to a doctor, a friend of mine, and he's been in the medical field for a long, long time. In fact, he's responsible for one of the major managed healthcare programs as a doctor that evaluates whether or not somebody's medical procedure should or should not take place. And he's been taking a drug called levothyroxine. It's for like a thyroid that's not functioning properly.
Yeah.
He's been taking it for like 3 years. And then he and I were talking because I take it as well. And he's like, you know what? I just found out that you're not supposed to take the medicine after you eat. I'm like, you're a doctor. You've been taking this medicine for years after eating your breakfast, which means...
Oh, yeah, one day I just decided to read the label.
And it says on the instructions, take before a meal. So here you have these respected authorities that you find out they don't know everything by any means. I know this already. But that to me was like, wow, here is something that's really relatively common sense and that a doctor tells you to do all the time. Read the instructions, make sure you know how to take the medication. And here he's taking a medication, but because he's got this assumption or this belief that he understands it already.
It's that blind sense of security. Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
I've been told that I have the most frustrating reaction to being proven wrong, which is very little to no reaction. Like I'll argue if I believe something or think that I know more about something or correct about something, then I'll argue it and I'll just keep going until either I win or I'm proven wrong. But as soon as I'm proven wrong, I just go, oh, all right, cool, thanks. And because that's just generally how I feel. Like as soon as I'm proven wrong, I'm like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, you're right, appreciate it, and then I just move on with my life.
Well, and that's there's lots of different ways that you can take those types of things. Some people will fight it to the end, even though they know that they're wrong at this point, but they'd rather just continue to fight and try to prove that their incorrect approach and that they now realize is not correct, but they're not going to give up on the fight.
I don't care enough about that.
And that's really having confidence in yourself to be able to say, oh, thank you. I got more information than I had before, and now I changed my mind.
Yeah, no, that's how I mean it too. I've just found there's been a handful of times where the person I'm arguing with gets even angrier at me that I just kind of kick it under the rug, which I'm not purposefully doing. I'm like, oh, okay. They're like, what do you mean, okay? Why the hell did you just argue with me about it for 30 damn minutes? It's like, because I thought I was right. Guess I wasn't. Sorry.
That goes along with the concept that I always bring up about relationships, about beliefs, about everything. And that is, I believe in it forever for now. Meaning that in another minute, if somebody tells me something that validates, or in my mind at least, justifies changing, then I change my mind. And the same thing goes for relationships and things along those lines where, when I use this as an example, but you get married, you spent a year, 2 years, 3 years courting somebody, going through engagement, all that kind of stuff. you get married, you're like, I'm going to give my heart to you forever.
Yeah.
In your vows. And then the next day you find out that this person actually was a mass murderer. You didn't know that for those 3 years. But
Ted Bundy.
Yeah. Or John Wayne Gacy, those types of things.
Yeah.
And then you find out, does that mean that I have to remain married to them for the rest of my life? Because yesterday I said, I'm marrying you forever. And that's where it's forever for now. The information that I know right now is when I'm saying forever. But a minute from now, I may find something else out that then says, forever just stopped.
Could you love somebody forever if you found out that they were a murderer?
Like stay together, like in a marriage relationship kind of thing?
Yeah.
No.
Why not?
Because if they were a malicious murderer, why would I want to be around that kind of energy? Why would I ever?
Well, what's the context of the situation, though? What's the context of the situation?
Well, that's what I just said. You tell me.
Yeah.
I mean, murder in one person's eyes could be self-defense in another's.
Yeah, somebody who goes and kills another person intentionally.
Well, why did they do it?
I don't know. That's up for the interpretation. That's what I'm saying. Could you potentially marry a murderer, somebody who's murdered?
If they went out and they ended up taking somebody else's life because that person was killing other people, that person was destroying other person's lives maliciously, then maybe there's justification behind it. It's not. It's
okay.
Still,
So like a Dexter type of person, you'd be all right with.
Well, look at it this way. And this is a very
there's no wrong answer, by the way. It's okay.
No. This is a real conflict that police officers and military members run into, is when they first get confronted in these types of situations where they have to take somebody's life, and for their entire life up to that point, that has been something that they never felt that they were going to do, or said you never should do.
Yeah.
But because of the circumstances, it became something that, even though it was completely against their belief systems yesterday or even a minute ago, it is now, because of the situation, something that they have to do. But their mind and their belief systems are still saying you shouldn't kill.
No.
And that creates a lot of this tension. That's when you have a lot of visceral responses. When you take someone's life for the first time, oftentimes those people end up puking because they realize what they did. It's a visceral response. So yeah, you need to realize that life, like leadership, is also situational.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And just saying somebody's a murderer or whatever, you have to think about why it happened, and then place some more judgment or valuation on it.
Yeah, no, good answer. That's what I was looking for. I was looking at because a lot of people they see the world as just black and white.
Yeah, the world is not black and white.
It's all good and evil, but it really isn't. Like everybody, the majority of people who are fighting any kind of battle, they always think they're the good guy. They always think that they're the good. There's very few in stories, and I believe in life in general, there are very few pure evil pure evil characters who just cause mayhem and destruction for the sake of mayhem and destruction. They usually have some sort of personal or societal benefit in their mind, like an end goal that somehow the world will be better like this.
Well, even if you look at Charles Manson and those types of things, it all depends on the person's mind and their mindset and what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
In their mind, it's justified because, they were an evil source, whether that person be even the president of the country, when Reagan was shot and those types of things. The people that do the shooting oftentimes have this mental picture that this is Satan, this is the devil, whatever, and that's what they're taking out. So, in their minds, and this is why oftentimes you question, why do we keep people in prison for the rest of their lives? And the psychologists are like, because we want to learn from them. We want to learn what triggers it, why they believe that way, those types of things. The same thing happens even if you go back into Vietnam era. And this happens also in many cases in military situations, as well as the police force, is there's a whole lot of things that happen behind the scenes that you don't know about when you hear about a story, just like we were talking about earlier. And if you look at the Cali, Cali being, I think he was Lieutenant or Cali or something in Vietnam, and there was this mass killing of women and children in a village in Vietnam. And eventually it came out that, you know, and I think he was court-martialed. But what happened is there was in war and when you go into different parts of town where there's violence, you don't know who the enemy is. And oftentimes kids and women and children are used as weapons. They're carrying the grenades. They're out there hiding the weapons, those types of things. So you don't know what's happening. But if you're in the moment, if you just experienced your buddy getting killed by a kid who brought out a hand grenade, do you know that the next kid isn't doing the same thing? So we place a lot of judgment based on what we believe, but we don't know what those people are going through at the time.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm listening to what you're saying. I'm just also giggling.
No, I was just looking at what people are just putting out there. You go into the woods, paper is limited, pine cones are a rough solution. But
I mean, it depends what way you wipe with the pine cone, you know? It's smooth one way, it's rough the other. That's how a lot of situations are. Sometimes it's a lot smoother to go one way than the other, even though it's not a great situation.
Yeah, you know, and oftentimes we're put into situations and we do have to take responsibility for our choices because everything that we do is a choice that we usually, not everything, but very closely, we have a choice in how most things, how we react to most things. But it's situational. It depends on our perspective. It depends on our perspective right now versus if we run around the corner and look at it from a different perspective, and all of a sudden we see a whole different circumstances than we saw before, and we change our mind and we sometimes regret the decisions that we made based on the information we had at the time. So
I saw one of the things that you mentioned that reminded me of a video I watched the other day. You mentioned having people in life sentences so they can be studied and whatnot. I saw a video the other day of this man who was falsely accused of some crime. I think it was he was falsely accused of holding up several restaurants and shooting the managers throughout like a span of time, and ended up getting the death sentence. And he stayed, I want to say, like 19 or something years in prison before he was finally released and found innocent because of faulty evidence and poor representation and all kinds of other stuff. But he received no compensation for those 19 years that he was locked away. And apparently there are, I want to say about like 11 states, about 11 states, it could be more, could be less, that believe that there's no compensation need to be given. What's your take on that? What do you think a fair compensation would be for something like losing 19 years of your life?
I think that there needs to be, it's tough to say what is compensation and who should provide that compensation. You know, again, like Bob was saying here, the big difference between facts and truth is facts continually change while truth is constant. Truth also is situational in that you only have certain facts at a time, but you also have to remember, I've always said this before, that, and it's said many times, numbers don't lie, but liars use numbers. And that's something that you need to be aware of when you're deciding what's truth, what's fiction, what's constant, what's not, and who gets compensated or who provides compensation. I don't know. I mean, you can't give somebody 19 years of their life back, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But oftentimes these people, not only do they get their 19 years taken away from them, but there's still a stigma about them that continues after they've gotten out, after they've been proven to be innocent. And yet they're still fighting against that, not only in society, but oftentimes in their mind. And that's a huge problem because, not only did they lose 19 years of their life being in an in a prison, they lost that ability to even grow socially, grow themselves. So when they get back out into society, they have a very difficult time. And how do you right that wrong? There's a lot of ethical questions, a lot of bioethical questions with regard to use of medications, vaccines, and things along those lines that, have to be really considered and are very challenging. And technology today is making things sometimes even worse. The human mind can't advance as quickly and absorb as quickly as technology is growing. The speed with which our database of humanity is growing now is doubling, I think, every 2 years or less now, where in the past it used to take decades to double the amount of information. So the human brain hasn't evolved that fast. Technology has. And with that comes a tremendous amount of challenge in terms of how do we deal with the world today and having this vast amount of stuff being exposed to us through different sources. We have to interact with it in a way that we have no idea, because that's not something that we were trained in. It's not familiar to us. It's not familiar to our parents. It's not familiar to the educators. It is a challenge. And this is, I think, also another reason why people are having such difficulty coping, why people do things like go out and commit mass murders, commit suicide, act in ways that you didn't expect, even today, how many times are we hearing now that people are freaking out on planes?
Yeah.
You were locked up in your house for the past 18 months. You think that when you're going to go out and fly somewhere, say you're going to fly to Vegas, that you're going to get on the plane just like you did 2 years ago before COVID, and you get on the plane and you sit down and okay, it's a 3-hour flight, and I get there and I'm happy and I'm having fun or thinking about what I'm going to do when I get out there. Now you get on the plane and it's like, holy crap, I haven't been in a tube full of people in 18 months. I haven't had people sitting next to me like this in 18 months.
Well, I wonder how many of those pilots were practicing their flying over that 18 months. That's what my concern would be. It wouldn't be all the people around me. It would be, I wonder how many times this guy has flown the plane in the last year and a half.
Well, there's definitely some of that as well. But I think that, the types of reactions, the freaking out of the passengers is got to do with their energy, with the recognizing now that what I thought was going to be like an experience I had 2 years ago is nowhere near like that, because I've got this anxiety now of being next to people. Now the guy next to me on my right-hand side just coughed. And they're like, holy shit, he's got COVID. Now I'm scared. Now I'm, and I'm stuck. And this is,
it's like the scene from World War Z. They got the one zombie on the other side of the plane that bites, and they got half the plane infected, and the other plane's trying to put up all the luggage, save themselves. That's what happens.
Yeah, wait a second. This is what I was trying to get.
Okay.
Why do good things not happen for people who do their best in life? I think that you really, and I think Brian responded here, Manny, there is good and evil in the world. Sometimes bad people prosper because they are bad and they have that side working in their favor. The same side tries to quash the good side. So, yeah, you know,
I think there's a lot of different answers to this question. It all comes up to interpretation. You know, there's the religious answer of God is trying to put you through trials to make you stronger. There is the answer of, everything just kind of happens. There's no real rhyme or reason to it. There's a wrong place and a wrong time, right place, right time for people. And then there's also the self answer of, maybe your life is giving you what your best is. And that's just what it is. Maybe you need to be doing something else for your best so you get something else back in return in life. It gives and it takes. But that question's kind of a personal interpretation. The way that I am with it is I feel like things just kind of happen. And if you put yourself out there, if you try to do positive things, you try to do good things, no matter what, you're going to fail. But you will overall see more positive than negative things. And I don't mean just saying hi to a stranger, stuff like that. That little stuff brings back little stuff. You say hi, give a smile to a stranger, they give a smile back. You feel good for a couple seconds. I'm talking about going to the gym regularly, eating healthy, working on your business or a project, stuff like that. Bigger things will give back bigger failures and bigger rewards equally.
Yeah. And I think that, oftentimes, And I've experienced this too, in interviews for a job. There's a lot of people that go out there and when they interview, they either embellish the reality and make themselves sound a lot better, or they completely lie about what they've done and they get the job. And you were there, and like myself, I tend to understate my achievements and I attribute my achievements to my team as opposed to myself. Yeah. And when I'm in an interview, they're like, well, other people are, spouting off about themselves. And I say about my team, and they're like, well, what did you do? Well, shit, I was the leader of the team. Yeah. So what my team accomplished is due to, in part, my leadership and guidance, but I don't take full responsibility for it because without them, I wouldn't have accomplished it. But other people are like, this is what I did. This is what I did. Bullshit, you didn't do that. This is what your team did. Now you're taking full 100% credit for it. So it's kind of like what Mandy is talking about in terms of, why do good things not happen for people who do the best in their life? Oftentimes there's these challenging forces that are out there that we all experience. And in one way, shape, or form, the key thing is that we have to remain congruent to ourselves. And I'm not going to go out there tomorrow and interview and say, I did this and I did that and I did this. I'm still going to say, we did this and we did that and we accomplished this. And yes, I was the leader, but I'm not going to change my mindset because I've got to remain congruent to myself. It's when we lose that congruency and say that, okay, I'm a good person and I'm trying, you still got to watch your back. I mean, you got to do that. You've got to be situationally aware, but you need to remain congruent to yourself, that your mind, your actions, and your body and your beliefs are in line. Otherwise, you create massive stress in your life. Absolutely. So those are the types of things that we need to be aware of. And, do bad people get good returns? Yes. Do good people get good returns? Yes. And oftentimes it's just in the way that we perceive what happened. We didn't get the job. Okay, maybe that job was really not the place that would have been comfortable for me to work for the next 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. If I would have gone and taken that job with the management that selected that other person, I wouldn't have gotten along with them to begin with. So maybe it was actually that I shouldn't have gotten that job because I wouldn't have been able to be congruent those years in my life, and it would have caused greater stress than the reward that would have been getting the job. So that's one thing. It looks like we got a lot of stuff going on in the audience here, which I think we need to bring in.
Yeah, go ahead, go down it, and then we'll give our final words, and then I think we'll be ended out after this.
Well, let's see how it goes. I mean, if people keep contributing, we can play off it. Let's have a good conversation going on too. Jaybird, if you look for the good, you find and see the good, just as with the bad. Where the mind goes, energy flows. Exactly. Where your focus goes, energy flows. So if you choose to look at something as turning out to be the worst for you, then you're likely going to find things to justify that. If you say, okay, I learned something from it and I can move forward with life in a more impactful, powerful, positive way, then you're likely going to find the justifications for that. Yeah. And that's all got to do with things that we've talked about in the past with the amygdala and the reticular activating system. Once you focus on something, you start to see more of it, even if that's not necessarily the truth or empowering to you.
Well, I think that's exactly what COVID did, in all honesty. Like it created an even playing field in the sense that it was a very inconvenient, very horrible thing that happened to everybody nationwide or worldwide. It happened worldwide. And you saw people who let it stop them. They sat down, they did nothing. They collect their checks and whatever, and they stayed at home. And then you had people who decided to pick up new hobbies, learn new trades, start businesses, study, work out at home, figure out different ways that they could be productive in their lives. And I think that's the best example of 2020 is the best example of showing how no matter who you are, where you are, you can either benefit or let a bad situation tear you down.
Absolutely. And I see, kind of the conversation that Brian and Mandy are having here. And you're right. There are protectors out there. There are those that, have a more natural propensity for protecting others, for looking out. I try to think of myself that way, but at times, I can revert back into a situation where it's not so empowering for me, and to believe that all my efforts to work on myself or to work with others is not achieving what I felt I should be able to achieve or could achieve or I was meant to achieve. And then you can get into a state of mind where you become disassociated or depressed or stressed out. And, the one thing that we have to be aware of, and this is something kind of tied to what Mandy is saying here. Okay, I get that, but I'm told by so many that I am worth more and deserve more. But even though I have changed my way of thinking and doing, my life still seems to suck. Well, if you are believing that, guess what? Your life will tend to justify what your belief is, that life sucks. And if you're looking for
what are you doing?
Validation.
That's what I'm curious on. Yeah. So what are you doing to change your life? Because I do believe that people are telling you that you're worth more, and I do believe that's true. I don't know your whole situation. I don't know your life. But I do believe I would like to believe that you do deserve more than whatever it is you do have. And I do believe that you are trying to keep that positive mindset. But what are you physically doing to work towards it? What are you actively going out and doing to work towards your goals? What are your goals, and how are you pursuing them? That's the big question. You could want something all you want. You can want something all day, every day. And while that definitely does help, that is a wonderful motivator. If you're not putting anything actually physically into action, then you're really just gambling on fate, which is a very dangerous way to live.
Well, and especially if you're looking outwardly for, something to validate your reason for being, your happiness, your positivity, your outlook on life. If you're looking for outside sources to validate it, you're looking in the wrong place, because you have no control of the outside source. You have control of the inside source, even though it can be very challenging to take that on. And there are a lot of bumps in our road, and inner peace is a challenge sometimes because of what you experience in your environment and what you in your external environment as well as your internal environment. And we can go down there. I mean, I go down there too. I go down those paths. There's no doubt about it. There's times that, you got to really reevaluate where your happiness is coming from, where your focus is coming from, and then look elsewhere to.
I'm sorry, I'm not laughing at you. Brandon's just frustrated about somebody that happened in traffic. He messaged me. For those who don't know, Brandon clearly is not here right now. So he messaged me about some people in traffic who he's just having a bad day, poor guy. And it just made me giggle because I love Brandon, but sometimes when he's extra frustrated, it makes me laugh.
Yeah. That's true. One thing that Joe says here that I think is really important when you get into these mindsets is oftentimes, again, when we get into a mindset that we believe our life sucks, then we tend to find more and more things that validate that. And what we need to go back to is recognizing that those small things in lives that we can be grateful for and have gratitude for are the things that will help us to overcome that. It's kind of like Tiger Woods when he was learning to putt. You didn't learn to putt by putting the 30-foot putts. You start with that 2-inch putt, then the 6-inch putt. And this is how you can get yourself out of the mindset of, life sucks or something. Start looking for the small things that you did that, you accomplished. We accomplished so much in our daily lives that we don't give ourselves credit for because we're always looking for the big thing. We need to look at the fact that, we did step over the curb instead of tripping over the curb and recognize that in fact is a success. Yeah.
You know who I've actually found I just stumbled upon him the other day on YouTube, just scrolling around, who has this really, really awesome, amazing energy actually is, what's the name? Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
Yeah. I stumbled upon him the other day and I was listening. I was like, wow, you know what? This is actually this is some pretty awesome stuff he's got to say. I really enjoyed the overall feel and the aura of everything that he had going on. I don't know if you know him at all.
I trained under him. That's where
really?
Huge part of what I talk about is Tony Robbins. The difference is Tony Robbins used to have the infomercials that were on at midnight and afterwards, 30 years ago. And that's when I first got exposed to Tony Robbins. And I've been to his resort out in Fiji during his Life Mastery program and so forth. So yes, I know Tony Robbins. I many of the things that I say, people who do know Tony Robbins are probably like, man, I've heard that before. Yeah, you have, because I truly find his approach on many, many things to be super empowering. So yeah, it's interesting. It's the generational gap at this point. Tony just had one of the largest events ever because of COVID. What he did, he used to have events where his large events were 10,000 people in a convention center while he's on stage. Well, during COVID, what he did is he created a 360 theater around him of screens where he could see 4,000 people, 4,000 screens around him. And he had, I want to say he reached,
it can't just be him doing all this,
or 80,000, and actually ultimately reached almost 1 million people.
Is this all just him doing this, or does he have help? Is his wife or someone like that helping him out?
Oh, he's got a massive crew. I've been a part of the crew. I've been a part of kind of the people that lead up to the leaders that help people make breakthroughs at these events. And when you see everything that's behind it, I mean, it's massive, and there's a tremendous script to it, but there's also flexibility to that script, and you have to have that in order to be able to just manage and maintain everybody's focus when you have that many people of that many different situations around you. So yeah, it's it's a phenomenal thing to actually get a chance to see in person.
Yeah, I just found a couple clips on YouTube, and it seemed pretty interesting. So I looked into him a bit, and then I saw a couple things about his wife as well. She seemed like she had a good energy too, but I didn't really see too much about her.
Well, Sage is okay. So when I was in Fiji going through Life Mastery, it just so happened that Tony and Sage were in Fiji at the time in their resort, and he came into our Life Mastery class. And Tony is a big guy. He's like 6'7", 6'8", and huge. And he's got a huge personality. And his wife is relatively, I mean, she's petite.
Yeah.
And I felt her presence when she came into the room. Tony's got this big presence about him. Yeah. Her energy, her aura is amazing. And that's why they can get along together, because Tony's got this amazing energy and big time and big presence, but her aura is so powerful, so strong that in my opinion,
very concentrated, right?
Yeah, and it comes through in a much different way. Tony is very impactful, forceful, masculine energy. She is much more of the feminine energy, and comes in, and I've always said feminine energy is stronger than masculine energy. She comes into the room and she just has a presence about her. There's times that Tony is up on stage and he's getting into what he's saying, and it doesn't happen that often. Maybe once an event, maybe not even that often. Sage, his wife, will get the mic and say, "Hey, Tony, maybe we need to look at things a little bit differently." And you can see, first of all, it breaks him from the direction he's going, which oftentimes we need to. If we're in an argument, we're going down a certain path. Sometimes you need something to break that momentum in order to rethink what the path you're following. She's got that ability with Tony. And she is normally 100% spot on whenever she does that. And it's like, whoa, that was freaking amazing. And, virtually nobody else is going to stand up there and do that. There are some people in Tony's trusted circle. Joseph McClendon is one of the people that is also on stage with Tony, does a lot of the Tony sessions, trainings, all that kind of stuff. Joseph is a small guy. Joseph is smaller than me, shorter than me, but he's got a huge personality that's totally different. So it's pretty amazing.
Nice. I'll definitely have to look more into him. Then I'll have to check them all out and everything. Get a feel for the energy and her aura. I'm excited to hear all about that. So thank you. Awesome. What a coincidence. What a small world, right?
Exactly. Exactly. It's amazing because now we start to really bring in, and this is where the presence of different people and bringing in different perspectives and bringing in different generations really start to empower each other. I learned so much from you because you're coming from things in a totally different mindset than I do, because hell, I'm almost 3 times as old as you. So your perspective, and then I've got to say, oh shit, there's like a whole generation, many generations, when you think about it, that are looking at things differently than me, had different experiences than me, never saw a Tony Robbins infomercial because he doesn't do them anymore. But he still has this presence in the COVID world, and did these massive events this past year that, unless you're part of that, you may not have heard anything about it, but they were massive.
Yeah. Mandy Attenborough, I just scrolled up now and just saw what you said. So you said, you're going out and meeting more people, talking to them, keeping busy at home, and still helping your friends. You cut down on sweet snacks. You meditate. You take time for yourself. You say, all right, that's awesome. Those are all good things. What are your goals, though? What are you trying to reach? So you said you cut down on sweet snacks. So are you trying to lose weight? Are you trying to live a healthier lifestyle? Like what exactly the goal is? You said you're going out and meeting more people and telling them, are you trying to make connections for a business? Because right now it sounds like these are all great things. They really are. These are all things to live a happier, healthier lifestyle. However, I'm confused on what your exact goal is. Is your goal to be happier? Is it to be more successful in business? Is it like what exactly are you striving to achieve right now? Because I'd say right now, if your goal is to just be happier, you're doing good things, but happiness is it's fluid in a sense where, you know, it rises. Everybody has a level that they're at. Some people's level, their base level is way down here. Some of their base level is way up here. But no matter what happens in life, you're going to have it rise, you're going to have it fall, but then you're always going to come back to that base level. So you're doing all these things, and I'm going to assume that your goal is to just be happy in life. Then you have to understand where your base level is, and then you have to be constantly doing things to go above that base level, but then understand that sometimes you're going to go below that base level, and that's okay because you need that contrast in order to be healthy. You know, it's not healthy to be high all the time. It's not healthy to always be on that really upper level.
Yeah, and the other thing is, and this kind of goes along with what Jaybird is saying here, some days you must work harder, the drone, the leader, then the top dog equals small wins, equal big wins. Yeah. When you're looking at trying to be happy, oftentimes our rules for being happy are a list of 20 different things that have to happen simultaneously in order for me to be happy, as opposed to I woke up, I opened my eyes, and I got out of bed. That made me happy. If that is all it takes to make you happy, if that's the primary thing that you look at, these smaller pieces of accomplishments make you happy, and then you're going to feel happy. But if you have to have 20 things happen, most of which are not under your control. All of my kids have to say, "I love you, Mom," in order for me to feel happy. My family and friends all need to appreciate what I do in order to feel happy. People have to tell me that the food that I made was outstanding in order, and all of these things have to happen in order to be happy. Guess what? The chances of you being happy are slim to none because you have no control over what anybody actually says and does to you. Yeah. You only really have control over how the things that you do to yourself and say to yourself.
You said here your goal is to help more people. All right, so how do you want to help more people then? Do you want to help them with their business? You want to help them live happier lives or healthier lives? Like, what exactly do you mean by helping people? Because that can mean a lot of little things. You know, maybe you hold the door open for somebody each day, or you do like a very little thing each day, and that's how you help somebody. Or are you trying to revolutionize people's lives? Because then maybe you want to focus on one person and just really focus on their life and helping them out. Like
exactly.
Your goal it helps get clear results towards your success and happiness and what you want to get done.
Yeah, you know, I see Joe is pointing out back behind me is actually a Tony Robbins Leadership Academy book.
Oh my God, is it?
Yeah.
What are the odds of that? That's crazy.
Yeah, that's how much it means to me. I mean, I've got that. I've also got something that is Sacred Path book. That's going back to Native American indigenous beliefs.
And
then there's the I Ching from China.
Yeah, a tablecloth and a light there and everything. That's awesome.
Yeah, so
it's your own little Tony Robbins setup.
Well, Tony Robbins plus, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're absolutely right, though, Gavin. And Mandy, one of the things that we tend to do is we tend to want to say something in general. I want to make people happy. Niche down, focus on a specific thing that you're going to do that is going to make people happy. And like Gavin is saying, opening a door for somebody who wasn't expecting it made them happy, made their smiling at somebody who is walking down the street towards you, and then they look up and see somebody smiling when their mindset was not in that same state. You just changed potentially their mindset. You helped them. So those are the types of things that really we need to focus on, because we do those things, and you can't change the world without taking one step at a time. So focus on that step. And when you make that step, then take the next step and take the next step. And pretty soon, and this is another thing Tony Robbins says, we overestimate what we can do in the short term and underestimate what we can accomplish in the long term.
Yeah, absolutely.
So recognize that when you put these long-term goals out there, this is like when I was in project management, you have this massive project. I have to implement or bring on a brand new warehouse or brand new operation. But I didn't do that by just bringing on that operation. I had 1,000 tasks that I put into a project plan, and each one of those tasks is what we focused on at the time. And by adding up and all those tasks, at the end, you've accomplished this big thing.
Yeah.
But there were 1,000 steps along the way that had to be focused on at the time in order to get that big thing done. Yeah. So focus on those small steps. Recognize, Jaybird is saying here, there's potholes and detours and paths and so forth. I say, the project plan or a policy or a procedure, it's a great place to deviate from. So you create this thing and you try to envision how it's going to happen. But when you put things into action, potholes and detours come up. And that's when you have to actively, look at alternatives and realize that even though I can see my destination straight in front of me, there's a canyon that I have to get across first. So where do I have to go in order to get across that canyon, that river, whatever? I've got to take a detour. I may have to take paths. If you've ever climbed on mountains or hills and you're like, oh, I want to get to the top of that peak. And you're like, okay, it's not that far. And you get up to the top of this one that's in front of you. And then it's like, holy crap. There's this big drop and I've got another mountain to climb before I even get to the one that I'm looking at. But I couldn't see that because the first mountain was in my way. Those are the types of things that we have to recognize as well, that, it's a great goal. You can have the vision, you can have the end in front of you, but there's a lot of obstacles that can be in your way before you get there.
Absolutely. Mandy, you said that you want to bring the best out of people in whatever they want to do. So that sounds like you want to do big things for people. You want to do big, help them achieve big goals. If I were you, then I would choose one or two, three at the absolute max if you're able to. The less people you choose, the more you're going to be able to give them that energy and that time to help them achieve their goals. But find one or two people, ask them what their next step is in life, what their next goal is in life, and then help them achieve that next step, that next goal. And then once they do that, go on to the next person, because in all honesty, everybody's life is it's a never-ending story until it ends. It's always going to be something next. There's always going to be a next goal. But if you help them achieve that next goal, then you, by theory, in term, have helped them reach their best self. You helped them in the step in the right direction.
And recognize you cannot control them. You can guide them, you can influence them, but they may not follow that path.
Yes.
You cannot control them. So if your goal is for them to achieve something and they don't achieve it, the reason that you're feeling depressed is because you have no control over them. You can't control them. So if you make your happiness dependent on their success, more often than not, you're going to feel like you didn't accomplish your goal because you can't control their actions. You can't control them. The ones that we can control are me, myself, and I. And that is oftentimes the hardest team to control, because we actually have to take responsibility for me, myself, and I. And we are the only ones that can really control me, myself, and I.
Yeah, absolutely. You thinking about doing some final words, Brett?
Sure. We can definitely go that route.
Yeah.
Today I think has been an amazing conversation with everybody out there. And it's one of those days where we actually get a chance to interact more. And I think we're going to be doing this in our format more often, because it is able to provide, our opportunity to to get a better feel for what's going on in your lives, and to see if there's things that we can do to possibly influence or provide a different perspective or something along those lines. And the more perspectives that we can get, the more options that we have, the more tools that we have in our toolkit to deal with life and the challenges and the opportunities that are available to us are critical to being able to feel happier more often, and to recognize how we may need to grab a different tool, a different focus, a different perspective in our minds in order to really get around that obstacle, to get to that final destination that we're looking at. But to also recognize that the final destination in happiness for us comes from within, not from without. So I love the conversation that we had today. It's amazing that after all these days of being on the show and so forth, that Gavin says, hey, you know, I came across this guy, Tony Robbins, and I'm like, holy crap, that's what I've been talking about for so long. And then I recognize, yeah, I do have him behind me, and literally he is behind me in the back of my mind with a lot of the things that I say, as well as some other mentors and so forth. But I think today has been an awesome day. Love everybody out in the audience, all of your participation. Thank you, Mandy. Thank you, Jaybird. Thank you, Bob, Joe, CK, everybody else that's out there. Just trying to make sure that I don't forget anybody. If I can, Jessica, hopefully you're feeling better and continue to feel better. Brian, thank you for being a part of this. Every day that I get a chance to interact with people, it is a day that I learn, and it is a day that I get to maybe appreciate maybe a little bit more of the little steps that I need to look at in order to feel happy, in order to feel like I've made people's lives better. And made my life better, because the first and foremost life that you have to make better before you can really help others is yours. All right, Gavin.
I'm going to keep mine short and sweet for this one, and it is inspired by Jaybird. Sometimes life is being in the middle of the woods with no toilet paper. Pick a pine cone and choose the way that you'd like to wipe.
That's amazing. And absolutely true. Absolutely true.
Once again, my name is Gavin Kerr. I'm joined with the wonderful Brett Gordon here. Thank you all so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it around. That's the best way to support us, is by sharing this video. We hope you have a wonderful day. Hope you took something from this, and we will see you all again next time, bright and early. Take care, guys.
Take care, everybody. Have an awesome day.